morning, children. Today we are going to move ahead and we are going to do agents of pollination. Now children demanded for this video, so that is why I am again making a video and posting for the further parts of flower. I hope they will be benefited through this. The various agents of pollination are, that means who will help in the process of pollination, who will help in the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. So it is brought about by the various agents, and in detail we are going to see all of these. We start with the first agent, that are the insects. Entomophily. It is the process of transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of another flower through the insects. You can cut the word agency of through the insects. Now in order to ask the insects, or in order to make the insects do the pollination, it is necessary that the flower has certain characteristics because of which the insects will feel like coming to the flower. So what are those characteristics? Let's see that. First, the flower has to be beautiful, showy and brightly colored. That means the petals of the flower, that is the corolla, has to be beautiful. It has to be of bright colors. That means it has to be attractive. Then the insects feel attraction. The smell should be there. It should have a sweet smell or the aroma. Small size flowers should be there. The flower size should not be very big. Presence of nectar glands. Many flowers that are brightly colored and have sweet smell, they also have a sweet liquid which is secreted in the flowers, and that sweet liquid is known as nectar. So in order to eat and suck this nectar from the flowers, insects come to the flowers. Then even some of the flowers have edible pollen grains. The pollen grains are edible and they are sticky also. So when the insect enters the flower in order to suck the nectar or eat the pollen grains, some of the pollen grains stick to the legs or the wings of the insect, and when they move to the next flower, these pollen grains get transferred. The plants that get pollinated by the insects are China rose, that is hibiscus, pea, sunflower, etc. Some of the common insects which help in pollination are the bees. The bees are the most common pollinators, but the other insects can be the butterflies, moth, flies, etc. The next process is anemophily. Now anemophily is also the transfer of pollen grains by the wind. So if the wind is helping in transfer of pollen grains, it is known as anemophily. Now children, when the flowers get pollinated by wind, they do not have the same characteristics which we had seen in the insect pollinated flowers. Now because the wind has nothing to do with the smell or with the color or with the edible pollen grain, so it has nothing to do with all these things. So the wind pollinated flowers do not have such characteristics. Then what are the characteristics? Let's see that. First, absence of nectar. Nectar is not produced in such flowers. Flowers are not very brightly colored. They are odorless. No scent is there, and they are neither too showy. Absence of calyx as well as corolla. Right? The corolla is not required. The calyx is not required. Corolla means the petals are not there in the flower. Then plants generally grow in groups. That means a number of flowers grow together. A lot of pollen grains are produced. Now because they are being pollinated by the agency of wind or by the means of wind, so when they blow with the wind, it is not necessary they go and land on the stigma of the correct flower. So there are a lot of chances that many pollen grains do not land on the stigma of the correct flower. So that is why a lot of pollen grains are being produced. The stigma hairy means they are in the form of a lot of hair, and they are well exposed to catch the pollen grains. The plants that get pollinated by wind are maize, grass, wheat. Another one is when they get pollinated by means of water. It is known as hydrophily. Again, the flowers do not need any of the characteristics which were seen in the insect pollinated flower because the water has nothing to do with that. So the characteristics are pollen grains are long, filamentous means like a filament. Unwettable means they do not get wet inside the water. They keep swimming and they move from one flower to the other flower. The male flower gets detached. That means the male flower will separate itself from the plant, will float on the water, and when it reaches to the female flower, the stigma will catch it because it is sticky. The plants that get pollinated by agency of water are Vallisneria, Hydrilla and Zostera. Right? Now in your books, children, there is a figure given over here. You can see the figure. This is showing you pollination by water in Vallisneria. You can see how the male flowers are moving about. They are floating in the water, and then they will go and get stuck to the stigma of the female flower. The last one is ornithophily. That means pollination which is brought about by the birds. Now it is seen in bombax, begonia and canna. Small sunbird and the hummingbird. Hummingbird is supposed to be the smallest bird, children. When they eat the pollen grains, when they eat the pollen and the nectar, they come to the flowers in order to eat both this thing, and then they also help in pollination. Characteristics of the plants are, the flowers have to be large in size and stout. That means they have to be a little more broad and fat. Showy and brightly colored. Then only the birds will get attracted to the flower. Floral parts are thick and leathery. That means when the bird is going to enter inside the flower should be leathery so that it is not getting damaged and it is not getting spoiled. Production of the nectar has to be a lot because the birds will suck the nectar, and that is why they will visit the flowers. Production of abundant edible pollen grains should be there. So in case the flower has all these characteristics, then it gets pollinated by the agency of the birds. So this is all about the various agents of pollination. We'll do the next topic coming up is fertilization. Now once the pollen grains, children, have landed onto the stigma of the flower, then what will happen? The next step that will happen is known as fertilization. The pollen grains, once they land on the stigma, they start germinating. The pollen tube is developed, in which the male gametes slowly enter inside, and through that duct they reach to the ovary. And inside the ovary, they fuse with the eggs. And this fusion is termed as fertilization. Fusion means to mix into one another, to join, to combine. This is the definition, children. Fertilization is a process in which the fusion of the nuclei means the nucleus, of the male and the female gametes takes place. It leads to the formation of a new cell, new baby cell, which is known as zygote. Pollen tube in a plant, in a flowering plant, produces two male nucleus. When it produces two male nucleus, one will fuse with the egg cell, right? When the pollen tube penetrates to form the zygote, that is the baby cell, and the another male nucleus will fuse with the polar nuclei to form the endosperm. Now children, endosperm is the food that is stored in the cells for the baby to develop. That means for the baby plant to develop, the first food which is present is known as endosperm. Look at this, children. When the pollen grains are landing on the stigma, they are developing a pollen tube. This is known as a pollen tube, and this moves and it reaches, as you can see, it comes and reaches to the ovary, and inside the ovary it goes and forms a connection is made. And then through this only, children, the male nucleus, it moves and comes inside and fuses with the female egg cell to form the zygote. Zygote is the beginning of the new baby plant. Now this zygote needs some food, some energy in order to divide and redivide. So that food energy is stored in the endosperm. The zygote will develop and divide into the embryo, which will give rise to the plumule and the radicle of the seed. Now when the seed develops, the baby root is known as the radicle and the baby shoot is known as the plumule. Okay? Endosperm will act as the nutritive tissue for the growth of the embryo. This is what I have told you. Now post-fertilization changes. Now this diagram that you can see is a very important diagram, children. You should practice it well. The changes that take place in a flower after the fertilization has occurred. Ovary will enlarge. That means ovary will become bigger inside to form the fruit. Ovules present in the ovary change into seed. Ovary will develop into the fruit, and the ovules that are present inside the ovary will change into the seed. The sepals, petals, stamens, style and stigma. Now their functions are over, children. their importance has finished in a flower, because now the zygote has already started developing. So they dry up and they fall down. Inside a fertilized ovule, the zygote will divide and will start growing into the embryo of the seed. The integuments means the outer layer, children, of the ovule will become thickened. They will thicken up and they will even become hard to form the seed coats. And this seed coat is also known as testa. Now, depending upon this endosperm, children, which was actually where the food was stored for the growing embryo, these endosperm are afterwards classified as cotyledons, because they become bigger in size, they become thick, they become fleshy, and these are known as the cotyledons. So depending upon the number of cotyledons, children, the seed are classified into either the monocot seeds or the dicot seeds. If a seed has only one cotyledon, it is known as monocot seed. Like the rice, wheat, maize, these are all monocot seed, because you cannot divide it into two parts. And if the seed has two cotyledons, then it is known as a dicot seed. That means the seeds have two cotyledons, like in a PVC, in gram, in an apple seed, we see these. So these are all dicotyledonous seeds, or they belong to the dicot seeds, right? I hope this is it for today. I hope I've made myself very clear and you have been able to understand every minute detail of the lesson. I'll also be posting another video which will contain the last part of the flower chapter. Last part of the video, please stay tuned in so that you are able to see the last part of the video and you are able to complete the very long and detailed lesson of the flower. Happy learning. See you in the next video very soon.